there are consulting firms where a new project is worth anywhere from low six to low seven figures or even more. There, there's a lot of potential here, and I'm just looking for opportunities to help them do that.
Hey, what's going on? It's Joel Irwin. Welcome to another very special episode of Experts Unleashed. Today, you are in for an amazing treat. I've got my good friend Dov Gordon on, and we are going to be talking about a topic that has yet to be covered on this podcast. We are, I don't know, 70 or 80 some odd episodes deep into this podcast, and I wanted to reach out to Dov. I did reach out to Dov, and he's our special guest today because he is the um, foremost expert on launching and organizing and running profitable and valuable masterminds. How do I know this? Because I've been part of his mastermind for, I'd say, at least 3 years now. Now, when somebody throws around the term mastermind, all sorts of different things can go through your head. You can think super, super high ticket, super, super high level, which there are plenty of those out there. And you can also probably go on the other end of the spectrum where you can participate in free masterminds. And so there's a wide range of different types of masterminds that you can set up. And selfishly, I wanted to have Dov on the show because it is something that I have been pondering for the better part of, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks now of what I should do with my business. And so, without kind of ruining where this conversation is going, I'm going to shut up now and welcome Dov onto the show. Dov, welcome to Experts Unleashed.
Uh, Great to be here, Joel. Thank you.
So, why don't you give a quick 30 to 60-second introduction about who you are, why should we pay attention to you, and why are you so awesome?
You just made this very difficult. All right.
I can fill in the awesome part if you want, but just give us a background and
All right.
introduce yourself.
I'm 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 a guy who's got a lot to offer in a certain way to certain people. I've been a consultant for probably a little more over 20 years now, consulting, coaching. The thing is that the first 70 years or so, I was really like pushing boulders up the hill only to watch them roll back down and push them up again. That was uh, Dove Sisyphus Gordon. That's the story of a Sisyphus. I think I'm saying it correctly. Anyway, um, fortunately, I wasn't condemned to do that forever, apparently. So eventually, I started figuring out what I was, how do you actually sell your expertise? How do you package it? How do you sell it? How do you lead what I call an elegant sales conversation? How do you talk about what you do in a way that gets the attention and interest of your ideal client? How do you charge for what you do, and so on? And I got to the point where I realized that there are a lot of people like me who are really good at what they do. They care about their clients, but they're not natural celebrity types in terms of they're not interested in putting themselves out there in that kind of way that we see very often. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just that it seems to me that most people, most consultants who are solo, although the tactics we'll be talking about apply to larger firms too. Um, but I'm just looking at my story now. Most small consultants are not looking to build big businesses. For the most part, they're looking to be well paid. Working with great clients, doing great, interesting projects, and making a great income. Working with people who appreciate them, and they're not necessarily looking to become these famous marketers. And therefore, it's not their personality, and they struggle. I struggled for a while because you wake up in the morning and you think and you ask, well, how do I get clients? And most of the models out there are taking you down a path that's not a fit for your personality. And so that was really my problem, my struggle. And I came to realize that people who have a really strong personality, who are naturally good at that they have an unfair advantage. And I for somehow I managed to resist what the mistake that a lot of other people make, which is being somebody that you're not, or trying to put on that show, which always is patently visible to everybody but yourself, right? So, and but instead, I just kind of hung back and watched for a few years. Watched like people really buy that stuff. People buy in response to that. I mean, I'm going back to the 2000s. 2006, 7, 8, That's when marketers were. These are the early Frank Kern days. The early. I don't know. Your email list is your ATM machine. Either buy your stuff or get off my list. Right. That type of attitude, which never appealed to me. So, over time, as I started to figure things out, I started to realize that I seem to have a knack for suffering through things and then sharing my own stories and experiences with others in a way that saves them some of the suffering. Um, and I shifted my focus to help other consultants who are, in a similar situation. And quite by accident, I started what I think of as an alchemy network. That's the what I call this type of mastermind that I'm focused on, or have been for the last 10 plus years. And I started with a handful of people, like who were marketing and selling to small business, entrepreneur, consultant, and so on, and we're open to looking for opportunities to cross promote. um, Over the next 7 or 8 years, I grew it to just under 200 members. It was either 195 to 200 members. And then I realized that I needed to know who really wants to be there. So we switched it from free to paid, which was one of the scariest decisions I've made in business because I was afraid of losing all these great relationships. But fortunately, we landed quite strong, uh, and have continued to grow really nicely ever since. And about a year or so ago, I started to realize that other people can do what I'm doing. And maybe I should narrow the focus of my own consulting and coaching to focus on helping other consultants build what I call an alchemy network. An alchemy network is a way of becoming an under the radar leader in your industry, which is kind of in some ways what I've become for myself. And the network that I've grown over the last 10 years has been responsible for almost all of my business. Almost all of my leads and clients have come from colleagues in the network who have promoted me, and I promote them. Um, and you know how it works. So that's the gist of it. So early this year, I switched. I grabbed the domain profitablерelationships.com, and kind of shifting the branding slowly but surely to the Profitable Relationships Company. And I've been starting to help other people build their own alchemy networks. So a client who does consulting for large $500 million, $1 billion plus businesses on their new product design processes, he's building a network of senior R&D directors. Okay, that's helping him get his foot in the door at very high levels. Um, Somebody else is does what do you know ads management or agency, and a marketing agency, and for a particular vertical, and he's building a network of the owners of businesses in that vertical. um, I'm dropping a few points, and I'll pause and we can go wherever you want. I think it's important to understand that this network can be comprised of either colleagues or ideal clients or recommenders. So colleagues would be like the network I've been running for 10 years. It's me, it's you, it's others, people who are marketing and selling to the same types of people, have comparable audiences, and are willing to introduce you to their audiences. That would be colleagues. And if you think of a marketing or sales funnel, that will be at the top of the funnel. It's how you get people in. Um, the other two would be in the middle of the funnel, right? So once you have people in the funnel, or you've identified people, you want to reach out to them. It's a great way of building a relationship with ideal clients and recommenders, people who may not be the decision maker, but sometimes if your decision maker is the CEO of a $500 million, $1 billion plus company, it's kind of hard to really get to them at that level. So in some cases it makes sense to get your foot in the door, have some success with people one right below them, and then and then kind of spread. Right. And the remarkable thing is that for consultants, you can turn a lot of what you're already doing, a lot of what I think of as relationship marketing. You're already reaching out to people, you're sending messages, you're getting on Zoom calls or having coffee or meeting at conferences, hopefully soon. All these things that people are already doing, and you spend a lot of time on it. And it's difficult because you don't necessarily know where it's going to lead. And you find yourself in situations where sometimes they say, "Hey, Joel, that sounds really good. We're not ready right now, but get back to me in 6 months because I think we really want to do this. We'll get back in 6 months, right? We'll be ready then." And you're not one to sit around waiting. So after 5 months, you call them back, and they say, "Oh, Joel, I'm so sorry. I wish you got back to me last month because we just started with this other competitor of yours. So anybody who's sold consulting has experienced that. So what could you do, right? You could add them to your email list, and I recommend it, obviously with permission. But now you're sending them an email every, however often. But it's a one-way conversation at best. They may or may not be reading them, and you don't know what's going on the other end. You can also send them stuff, or a book or an article, and so on. And it may be a good idea to do that too, but sometimes it feels forced and awkward, and also it's still a one-way conversation. Far better is you say to this potential client, "Hey, I get it. 6 months, Joel. I hear what you said. It makes a lot of sense. What I suggest is this. I have this network that's comprised of precisely the people like you. Some are a little ahead, some maybe a little behind in some areas. The, these are the people that, based on everything I've heard from you, these are the ones that you would most enjoy talking to, getting to know, learning from. You can help them and they can help you. It's $1,000 or $2,000 for the whole year. And I want to invite you to join because, I really feel now suddenly you're bringing together your ideal clients in a network. And when you own the network, it's like owning the casino. You have an edge, you have an advantage. And now suddenly there's two-way conversations. 6 weeks from now, I can say, "Hey, Joel, let's quickly get on a 10-minute call. I want to find out what's, well, kind of just give me a quick overview of what you're dealing with so I can direct the conversations in the network in a way that's valuable for you." It's a different relationship. Maybe you're a consultant and your usual client projects are $50,000, $150,000, or even more. Um, but the fact that they've now paid even $1,000 to you or $2,000, it changes the relationship. And now you're not a nuisance anymore. You're not trying to find excuses to talk to them. They've invested in themselves through you. And that's how you turn a lot of that relationship marketing that you're doing for free, that outreach, that it's the same thing. Also, it's a lot easier to make referrals consistent this way. So these are the kind of things that you can do when you have your own Alchemy network. So and I'd say it's a concept. It's built on certain principles, and there's always creativity and ideas, and everybody's network will be a little bit different.
Sorry, I had myself muted, and so I was listening intently. Um, One of the things that I wanted to bring up, because I kind of introduced you as the mastermind guy, and you call them alchemy networks. Can you give us a clear distinction? Maybe they're very similar, maybe they're different, but because I've been part of your JVMM, your mastermind, what is the difference between a quote unquote mastermind and an alchemy network?
Um, Here's the way I see it. I see that the mastermind is a term that has been used to describe so many different things, from two people who meet once a week for coffee to discuss each other's businesses, to high priced $100,000 a year elite, hang out with celebrity guru so and so and 150 of his closest richest friends. Right. So that's, I mean, it really, and I'd say there are different categories. There's referral groups, I'll say, right? Like BNI, where the purpose is to meet and pass referrals. That's the purpose of it. There are peer advisory groups like Vistage and so on, where you get 6, 8, 10 non-competing business owners or executives around the table half a day or once a month or whatever schedule they have. And they hear a speaker and they have some hot seats, and that's a peer group. And masterminds also people use referring it to a Facebook group, which to me is a little bit ridiculous. But I mean, I just see it as kind of a broad category. That's how I see it. And I've been focused on a specific type that has specific purpose.
It sounds like an easy sell, an alchemy network, right? And the reason why I have been so interested in it is because um, I'm going through a little bit of a transition with my business. Like we are set, like financially we're doing great, and I have hit a lull. Um, I might sound a little pretentious with this, and that's not my intent. But like I've done great for the past couple of years, and I hit this plateau of like, what do I do next? I've talked about how I live a 4x4 lifestyle over the past few months, and that's really hit home with a lot of people, working 4 hours a day, 4 days a week. But a lot of that time, I've been kind of like just floundering of like, okay, where do I go? Where do I go next? And, you know, we hit these
The kids only have that many dirty diapers, right?
exactly. There's only so many diapers I can change. Um, we hit these I think periods in our life where you have financial needs that are met, and now what do you do next? Like, okay, for me, it's like I want to make an impact somehow, and I want to really I want to really make that impact with other people. And I've gone through the idea like, okay, well, maybe I can just pitch a typical mastermind to my existing customers. I mean, that's probably lowest hanging fruit, and charge $20,000, $30,000. But like that wasn't it never got me excited. And remembering some of our past discussions about your Alchemy Network, and figuring out like, okay, how can I set this up where I still connect with other high level individuals and build my kind of like my nest of potential agency clients, um, and still maintain this as a profitable venture. I mean, I'm probably not going to get rich just from the Alchemy Network in itself, but it will lead to other opportunities. That's what really kind of got me excited, because anytime that I make fantastic connections, like those prove to be way more profitable. And I'm not talking just monetarily profitable, like just more fulfilling endeavors when you connect with other people. And as being the leader of a group, I mean, you are put on that mantle, you are put put on that high stone, and so I love what you have done as I've been a member of your mastermind. And I think that there's just a very unique way that you run and design your own alchemy. I have to start calling them alchemy networks, because it really isn't like that typical mastermind. So I'm rambling a little bit, but how do you plan? Let's go into fulfillment here. Like, how do you run an alchemy network? Because from the outside looking in, it might sound like it's a big endeavor, but I know from talking to you, it's leveraged, highly
Yeah.
leveraged.
So recently, I was talking to somebody who said he likes the idea, but he doesn't really have time for it. He'd also told me that he talks to 6 to 8 people a day. He has a small consulting firm and also a SaaS business, software as a service business that he's been growing. And he has a small team. And I said, look, you're probably talking to, maybe 20% of the people you're talking to are potential members of your Alchemy network. However, you're getting them on the phone already, which is an advantage that a lot of people would be jealous of. You're in a good position. Like, you don't need more time for this. Now some people will need to do additional things to have those conversations, but in his case, for sure, and others I talk to, the whole assumption I don't have the time is usually wrong, because largely we're looking at ways of monetizing things that you're already doing. Now, in terms of actually running the group, that's kind of forming and adding members. In terms of running the group, I'm not exaggerating when I say that I probably put in, you know, 1 to 2 hours a month running the JVMM. Um, and I have an assistant who deals with some of the things behind the scenes that takes care of it. Now, I'm not counting conversations with members and potential members, because those are great anyway. If we're talking, we're getting to understand each other. We're understanding, I'm learning about you and where you're headed, and vice versa. And we look to see how we can support each other, make an introduction. So, you know, that's essentially what you want to be doing anyway. But the almost, again, like I said, almost all of my business has come through my JVM Alchemy network over the last 10 years. So running and most of the new members in the beginning, I was reaching out. I was identifying people, reaching out, inviting them. But for the last few years, almost every new member has been nominated by an existing member, because people see the benefit of the network effect. The more quality members there are, the better it is for everybody. So at the same time, I turn people away. I recently turned away a guy who's probably worth about $100 million. about 12, 15 years ago, he sold a startup company for $330 million. I'm guessing he had investors. I'm guessing he definitely had to pay off, the tax authorities, right? So let's just say maybe he ended up with 50 out of that. And over the last 10, 15 years, he grew it back up to 100. Anyway, we were talking, he was about to sign up and we had a good conversation. So it's just that, why it was relevant was because recently he decided he wants to start doing some mentoring of other entrepreneurs and business owners. And he's looking to do cross promotions with people. Someone told him about what we're doing and introduced us. And we were talking, had a good conversation. At the very end, he said to me, as he just got his credit card, he was about to, put it in on a form I'd sent him to. And he said, so would you promote me to your list? And I said, probably. I wasn't really thinking much about it because I was thinking that in about a minute, the next person was going to join my Zoom call. So we had to finish up. And he suddenly pulled back. He said, probably. Like, why not yes? I said, well, I mean, I suddenly realized something had changed. Well, because I need to see what it is, and we just have to work. I said probably fine. I mean, if it's good and it fits with the messaging and my audience and things that I know that I'm comfortable, probably. But I can't, I don't know yet. So he's like, well, we pulled back, and because we ended up we had to finish this via email. So he sent me an email, which I saw after my next meeting, basically saying, hey, look, I've been screwed before. And, I think that you need to be willing to at least, demonstrate the value or prove the value. I forget exactly how he said it, but that was the gist of it. And, and I replied, I said, look, that's not how this works. I told you what the group is, the kinds of people that are in there. And I'm not going to agree to promote you just so that you'll agree to come in, and pay an annual fee, because I'm not selling that. What I'm doing is I'm leading a network of people. One of the most valuable services that I provide to that network is curation. I curate who gets in. And that is a big key to this, by the way. I curate. People can't just buy their way in. And if you and I talk, I said sometimes I talk to some people and sometimes they get a feeling that, hey, I should do this, and they sign up. And sometimes they get a feeling like, yeah, it's not for me, and they don't. If you're not feeling it's for you, then don't sign up. And I sent that back to him, and that was the end of the conversation. And I think he's a good guy. I just think that he didn't really understand the mindset of coming into this, where we're coming into this to really build relationships with people who are looking to support each other. I don't have to prove anything to him. And if he was, basically telling me to prove that it's valuable, he completely missed something, and there's no room for him there. I don't care who he is. I don't care how much he's worth. I'd sooner take somebody who's doing $250,000 a year, who gets the idea. That person will be much more valuable to the other members. So, and I think that's been a big part of, you said like there's a unique flavor in what I'm doing. I think a big part of it is that I'm not enamored with, you know, money and celebrity. It just doesn't excite me. I am enamored with mastery. People who really master their craft. That excites me. And that's what I look for. I'm looking for a combination of, confidence mixed with doubt. We all have that doubt, right? Not all of us. Those who don't have it shouldn't be there, really. Um, so, and a commitment to your craft. So that's. Did I answer your question? What was it actually?
The question that I asked was time for fulfillment, and what does fulfillment look like
Oh
for
yeah, that's right.
one of these groups?
So fulfillment is really there are really four ways that we interact, and that is, number one is we have a pretty active email based conversation. Okay, number two is once a month we have a 90-minute Zoom call. So I will, organize an agenda, with different ways of doing that. We have different types of agendas, but I'll organize an agenda in advance. I'll facilitate it once we're there. And then number three, people have one-on-one conversations, just like we're having now, except that's usually not recorded and shared. We learn to find out what everyone's up to and see look for ideas or ways to support each other. And the fourth thing is something relatively new that I've introduced called what I call it the weak tie explosion call, based on some research about the power of weak ties. And recognizing that the group has grown, and if you talk to one other member a week, it'll take you about 2 years to get through to everybody. So now we have kind of small group speed dating type calls, and like if you And the great thing is I've done it in a way that they're except for the first one, which I organized. After that, they've all been organized by other members. So it's user generated value. And that's a way for people to just get to know another 5 or 6 members, and then based on that, oh, those 1 or 2 people, we should definitely have a one-on-one, and because I think we'll hit it off and find ways of supporting each other. So those are the 4 main ways that we interact. Obviously, there's details, but if you think about it, we have a member directory. So I'm like, I am occasionally making introductions. I think that's a good habit, and that's one of the things that I teach my clients to do is make sure that you're going to decide at the beginning that you're going to make at least 1, 2, 3 introductions amongst your group, depending how big the group is, every week, because to really emphasize a key point here, the great value that you're bringing as the owner or the leader of this network is really found in 2 things. It's in curation and conversation. Curation, we talked about. Conversation is that once you've curated a network of the right kind of people who really do want to get to know each other, these are the kinds of people that you will really enjoy talking to, right? Now make it easy for them to talk to each other, and it's actually, you know it's not that easy, because everybody is so busy that you need to kind of gently remind them or give them that experience sometimes, like the teaser of, hey, you really should talk to Joel Irway because you just told me this and that, and Joel's a master at that. Why don't you get on the phone and talk to him? And then, the 2 of you might do something together, right? Or at the very least, maybe you'll share some good ideas with him, and he'll learn about you and send you a referral down the line, or promote you, or have you on his podcast, or vice versa, right? So curation and conversation, and it's not the value that most people assume, right? It's not about the content that I'm creating. Most content is user generated. It's people asking questions, sharing experiences, learning from each other, and again, that's why there isn't that much management. Once you got the framework in place, very much taking things you're probably doing already and turning that into a new, low 6-figure revenue stream.
There's a lot of things that I like about this model. Number one, being in the internet marketing world, being in so many masterminds myself, and uh, it's inundated with a lot of noise, and people don't really understand what a true mastermind is. They basically just create this mastermind just so they can charge 20, 30, 40, $50,000. And a network of people is extremely valuable, but a lot of these young buck entrepreneurs, and I'll throw myself in there too. I subscribe to that fact, to some of that notion early on in my career, but understanding what a true network can bring you provides a lot of value to the person who organizes it and manages it, and provides tremendous value to the members. And so the one thing that I like about how you run this Alchemy Network is it's email based, which is weird. So it's weird to me that I actually enjoy that. That's what I want to clarify that. It's not weird how it's run. It's weird that I actually
Mhm.
prefer that, because all these other groups that I've been part of have been Slack, has been Facebook groups, and it's just hodgepodge, and they're not great ways to manage a network or a community. But every time that I see an email come through with the brackets JVMM, like, it's got a place in my attention span. It's like, okay, I'll look at the subject line, and but it's always there, and I find it so easy to follow in my inbox, and so easy to connect with other people, because it's managed via, I think it's Google Groups. I didn't even know
Mhm.
you could do
Yeah.
that. But anyway, so the way that that's run is, I love it. I don't participate in the Zoom calls as often as I should. I think it's probably been a year since I've been on one. But to me, just having access to those threads and being able to contribute I where
Mhm.
I have expertise or where I can add value, like that's good enough for me. That's valuable enough for me. Um, so it's funny, because I was listening to Perry Marshall earlier today, who's the king of like simplicity, of just like focusing on the things that matter. And you know, this is like a perfect, uh, if now I'm an offer guy, right? So like I'm thinking, where could this fit into anyone's business. Like this is the perfect downsell to anybody's like primary, any consultant's primary business. And like this gives you that paid email list, that gives you this paid nurture list to build and curate your relationships for people who aren't yet ready to take you up on your offer. And so I love it. Like I really love this model, and I wanted to echo that because I want people to understand why I think this is so powerful in ways that you haven't yet explained. Like you know it, but I'm trying to be that sounding board as to what's processing for me.
You 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 brought up an important point, which is that it's tempting to think that, oh, I need to, everybody's got to participate the way I think they should. But one thing that I've really come to see very quickly is that if this becomes another responsibility, another obligation, that's not something that most members are going to want. When going back a few years, somebody had sent out an email to the group. Somebody who'd been quiet for probably a year or so, hadn't sent anything out, hadn't been on any calls, and it was an offer for a paid weekend workshop that actually another member who'd been very quiet was doing. And I got a couple of emails behind the scenes saying like, "Hey, what was that all about?" Now we're all marketers. We're all marketing and selling, so none of us are afraid of somebody who wants to sell something. That wasn't the issue. The issue is like what Stephen Covey calls the emotional bank account. Is that make some deposits, right? Don't just show up to pitch something. So so I emailed her and I said, "Hey, just letting you know, I got a little bit of, behind back channel reaction." And she said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I should participate more. Yeah, I've been meaning to." I said, "Actually, that wasn't what I was saying. Let me clarify. I'm not trying to say you should participate more because I think that the only way that, or the only reason you should participate is if you see personal benefit. Like if you can see that I'll participate because I have my own, selfish benefits, things to gain. That's the reason to participate, not because you feel guilty because you haven't been participating. It's just that if you're not going to participate, then you probably shouldn't send out, something that, promoting a paid workshop. That's all. And I think that you really need to allow people to participate in the way that they feel most comfortable. And some people will be more, the 80-20 rule applies. You want to quote Perry and Richard Koch, right? So that 20% will be 80% or more of the activity, and others will participate somewhat and in their own way. There are probably some members who figure like, hey, if I get a few answers to 2 to 3 questions, 2 3 times a year, it's more than worth it. And for me, it's worth it to have them because they're when they ask those questions, it's worth it. And knowing that they're there and others know that they're there, and people sometimes will reach out and ask a question or whatever it might be, or do a deal of some kind. It's impossible for me to know really what everybody's valuing, but I try to keep my finger on the pulse of as many as I can. But I think it's an important point, is that don't feel pressured to pressure people to participate as you think they should. And I think another thing that like you said again, that there's this unique sense though that you have. I've taken a very light touch. I don't try to control anything other than who gets in and who stays in. Other than that, somebody once in a while, a new member will ask me, "So what are the rules?" And I say there are no rules. The rules are just be the kind of person that you would want to have in the group with you. And if not, you might have to leave. That's all. I mean, there are no rules. We don't have a list of rules. It's not like these Facebook groups where you have to go through. We don't have that.
Do you, in terms staying on this topic of fulfillment, do you see monthly calls as a requirement, or can it be just, I say just like an email thread or just a Google group?
Um, Look, I don't. My basic philosophy is that principles are timeless. How you apply them always, there's endless possibilities of how to satisfy a principle. And I don't think, I'm not one of these people who come and say, well, I did it this way, this is how I did it, and you have to do it the same way. And if you do what I did, then you're going to be successful. If you don't, you're going to be a loser. I I don't know. I don't think that way. So I think the principles are, is like, look, we're looking to be valuable to a community of people who could be valuable to you. And the question is, what is it that will be valuable to the community of people that you want to have as your members for whatever reason? And that's where I would start. I mean, there's different ways. I listed the 4 ways that we interact in the JVMM. I have another network called the Under the Radar Leaders Network, which is for my past, present, and maybe future clients. It's for the kinds of for consultants who are using relationships and to grow their business to get clients, and they're looking to leverage it. And building their own alchemy network is a key way. And not everybody is starting their own network, but many have or plan to. So that's who that network is for. I run that a little bit differently. Right? JVMM is me and colleagues. This is me where I position myself more as the authority. Um, so there are some nuances and some differences there. But working backwards from who is the ideal member, why are they there? What are they hoping to get? So that's my answer. The answer is, I don't know, maybe.
Depends on the niche, right? It depends on the market and the situation,
Yeah.
probably, and the audience.
Like I generally would not, I would not do this on Facebook, like you said. I wouldn't. But there's somebody, somebody who we know is in JVM who really just got excited by this idea, and he decided to start his own network, and he's starting it. He's going to do it based on as a Facebook group. And I said, look, I mean, I wouldn't do that, but in your case, because of who your ideal client is, or your target here is, they're probably on Facebook all day anyway. In which case, it might make a lot of sense. I'm, I'm still curious to see how it's going to turn out. I think that once you're doing this as a Facebook group, people are members of so many different Facebook groups that they are in the habit of ignoring. When it's coming to your inbox, or even your forums tab in Gmail or whatever, um, there's a certain intimacy that you have when the conversation is taking place in an email, and I don't think you get that in Facebook. So again, it doesn't mean it can't be. I wouldn't use Slack for it. There's just something about email that's different. It's not perfect. There are pros and cons, but yeah, I mean, I just that's what I think.
Would you recommend how do you recommend positioning this offer to somebody who's like, let me rephrase this question. Do you feel like this is a front end offer where you go out and you just start to solicit this, where you say, hey, listen, I'm curating these types of people. I would love to have a conversation to see if this is something you're interested in and if it's a good fit? Or do you see this as more of a conversation where you're already having conversations with the clients and it's now a downsell, or it's now a secondary offer for, you know, someone who might be a good fit in the future?
I think it's both. If when I'm working with a client to help them, figure out where this fits in their business, to help them start their own alchemy network, I usually position it as, if we're looking at a pyramid of offers where, maybe there'll be 2, 3, or 4 levels. This is the basic level, right? And if that, again, that's assuming that the membership is going to be either their ideal client or recommenders, right? So the idea is that you get people in your alchemy network who are potential clients going forward, and some of them will move up the pyramid and go for one of your higher offers. Um, and one of the things that I help them do is to design the very simple processes or systems that enable them to take somebody who's in the network, and without the person feeling like they're being sold to or pressured in any kind of way, help them really know when it's time to talk about other things you can do for them in a more hands-on kind of way. So um, having said that, it really, I think it's both. I think that there's a lot of value to be able to say, okay, instead of me feeling like I'm running in 100 different directions, doing all these different things, trying to get clients, there's a lot of value in being able to say, if I get X number of members in my alchemy network, right? Let's just say if I get to where I have 100 members in my alchemy network, I could be pretty sure that 10 of those are likely to do a $15,000 or $25,000 project with me every year, and maybe three or four will do $100,000 or $150,000 project. And again, I'm throwing out numbers that are very reasonable for a consultant who does work at that level, which a lot of consultants do. So So now we're looking at this. Okay, we're looking at a solo consultant with a roughly $500,000 a year business, maybe more. All right, and we look at that. Okay, if I'm charging $1,000 to $2,000 for an annual membership in my network, so if I have 50 members, that's one that's 50 to $100,000. If I have 100 members, that's 100 to $200,000, right? And now let's just say I'm getting another, let's say $100,000 and another 10 times 15. I'll try to keep it modest, right? So that's 250. And then if I have two clients at 100K each, I'm almost at a 500,000. But the value is that if I don't have to worry about, like, I just have to focus on identifying, getting in front of, starting conversations with the right people who, and then move them into the network. Having said that, when you start talking to somebody, if you can bring them straight to the $100,000 project, do it. No reason not to. But usually when you're reaching out to them to say, hey, we have this or that, or um, kind of to promote your consulting, however people are doing it, you're even, in a lot of people are doing this is outreach and social media and cold calling or whatever it might be, um, cold emailing. It's very common especially in the corporate world, LinkedIn. They try to automate this and so on. You sound like everybody else. Even when you're customizing your message, you still sound like everybody else customizing their message. But when you're approaching them, this we've some I've my clients have found this. When you're approaching them and you're approaching them to talk about inviting them to be a member of your Alchemy Network to see if it's a fit, you don't sound like everybody else anymore. Now, even if you can have a modest annual membership, you're basically giving them something. You're genuinely offering or to give them something. And that's something that helps you start a conversation that would be very difficult otherwise.
So the thing that I love most about this whole model is that anyone can do it. Meaning, as long as you are having conversations, which anyone on this podcast, anyone who's listening, is having those conversations, they have that consulting, at least that consulting business, that expertise based business. And it is highly, highly leveraged, meaning people aren't expecting, it's not a service, right? This is, you are not providing them a
Yeah.
service. This is curating a network, and a network is highly leveraged. And it's funny because when I talk about offers, and I talk about scale and big numbers that we've helped produce, and I've seen out in the industry, like we're talking millions and millions and millions of revenue. And now we talk about this one where it's like, okay, low six figures, mid six figures if you really push it. But I mean, obviously, if you have your back end offers, like this is the ultimate hot list. I was listening. I was I'm on this email list of this internet marketer. His name is Justin Goff. I don't know if you know who he is, but young guy, had a lot of success with a supplement company, and he's since gone off and he has sold that, and now he's got a very small list of about 2,500 people, but it's highly curated. It's a highly curated list, meaning like it's application only just to get onto his email list. And he just finished up a launch where he sold 120 units of a um, I think it's a $200 or a $300 a month membership newsletter, right? Now, mind you, 2 or 3 months ago, he did this launch and he sold over 500 units of this $300 per month newsletter from a list of like 2,500 people.
Hmm.
Where I'm going with all of this is that uh, the power can come in very small numbers. I say 2,500 is small because when you look at internet marketers, they're talking about list sizes of tens of thousands of people, and you know, doing he's doing well over $1 million in run rate, because he also has a $30,000 per year mastermind, back end mastermind, which is absolutely crushing it. But
Hmm.
for me, my focus right now is small, like getting big results from small numbers. And I see this as the way. Like I see a version of this as the way for making that happen, because this is your warm, like this is your hot list that people are paying you for. participating, you are positioned as the go-to authority, and now you're providing value in many ways that they weren't able to get on their own. And so I think there's so many things that I love about this model. Has there been anything that I've missed, like any core concepts that are important that I haven't touched on that we want to make sure that we cover?
Oh, I'm sure there are, but I'm not thinking of anything other than just what you just said, right? That's what's on my mind. You brought up definitely a really good point, because your approach is, and you'll correct me if I'm oversimplifying, but it's very much about paid traffic to an offer that's going to be between 3 and 10 or $15,000 with follow-on offers that could be higher. I mean, that's what you're teaching, right? Um, and that's a great system for the right people for certain types of businesses. Um, and there, I'd say that probably most of the people that I'm working with are not, they're just not interested in that type of they don't want to be doing that, right? They're really looking to, they just, like I said earlier, they want to be doing great work with great clients, making great income. For them, it makes a lot of sense, based on what we talked about. Having said that, I am sure that, um, there's a way, like you said, where this would fit in with with what you're doing in terms of cultivating relationships with your clients. Um, I don't, I don't know exactly what that would be, because we have to work backwards from the goal, and we started touching on this, but we didn't get to it. So the idea is, you look at that kind of the product pyramid of what it is that you want to be offering, and then you look at the base, or the foundation. Now, you might have something free as well, like you have a Facebook group that's quite active and valuable. One of the challenges would be to figure out, okay, what's what, you know uh, that's what I see as a puzzle to figure out with you. So, where does that fit, and where does this fit? How can I draw the line now? um, I'm not going to try to answer that right now, because I think we'd have to have a kind of a brainstorming session to think that through. But basically, you're looking at, okay, what do I want to move them up to afterwards? Um, and then you design it backwards from what ultimately, what does the business look like? So the clearer you are about that, of course, the easier it is to figure out where the Alchemy Network fits and how it feeds that. I'm curious though, what are you clear about the higher end, or was that part of what you were trying to figure out?
Well, the model that I teach is the perfect expert model, which is, for those who are really looking to either get into a new venture, or they're starting their own, um, their own coaching or course creation business. I talk about leading with that high end offer, like, so designing a high ticket course or high ticket consulting offer first, and then scaling down with more productized offers. Why I like this is because I see this as the perfect bottom tier offer, like, versus just a DIY course, which is what I normally talk about. Meaning, if you're on the phone with somebody and, they're hooked on your promise, they really like that core promise of what you're promoting, but they're not quite ready for that top tier offer that you've got. I normally say, okay, great. Well, downsell them into the DIY, and when they're ready, let them know you can credit that towards the top level service, the top level offer. That has worked extremely well. Like, let me be very clear that that doesn't not work. But there are some markets where regardless, they just don't want a DIY program. For instance, I have quite a few accountants who come to me and they're looking to productize their services. And they're like, okay, great. Well, I'm just going to show business owners how to do their own accounting. I'm like, no, nobody is going to buy a course on how to do their own accounting. I mean, that's why you go to school for 4+ years to do this for other people. Like, there are just certain offers that people aren't
And
going to want to pay for. And so,
it's the first thing that I would want to outsource, and did. I mean, like, who wants to do your own accounting? It's not worth it. It's just,
and so I use that example because that's the easiest one to kind of paint the picture. But there are other markets out there of, like, okay, I know you want a course, but, like, you also have to make sure that the market is willing to pay for it. And so when I hear this Alchemy Network, because everyone, like, they make most of their money from that top tier offer. I mean, I've got a couple of clients who crush it with like DIY courses, but I don't hide this from anyone. Like, getting an automated webinar to sell a DIY course and doing big, big, big numbers. I mean, that's the goose that lays the golden egg. I mean, that is the holy grail of marketing. You have to have a lot of things. You have to be an excellent marketer. You have to have a lot of things go right in order for that to happen. And so I don't try and paint that picture um, of it being a reality for most people. That's why we always talk about that perfect expert model and starting with the top down. But I see this as that perfect bottom tier offer saying, hey, listen, I know you're very excited and you're still bought in. You wouldn't be on the phone with me right now if you weren't bought into this promise. Excuse me, if you weren't bought on this promise that sparked this conversation, and it might not be the right fit for you right now, but I have something else that it would be of value for you. I have this network, and I would love for you to, from what you've told me, I think that you could not only gain a tremendous amount of value, but you could also contribute to the group as well. And I love it. Like, I think it's a great nurture offer and a great bottom tier offer. And I say bottom tier lightly because it's not like it's cheap, but it's
No, I got it. Yeah.
it's that low end offer that will allow you to ascend them later on down the road and still monetize those conversations that you're having. Because I think a lot of people are just leaving money off the table by, I talk about this all the time, by not having a downsell, the proper downsell. Because just trying to put a square peg in a round hole, like, yes, you're going to make sales, but you're also leaving a lot of money on the table if you don't know how to pivot for people who aren't the perfect fit for you right now or just can't um, afford your services right now.
Right. Then the question then becomes, when you're using it as a downsell in that way, the question becomes qualifying, right? Because I mean, curation. And again, if you're using it as just like a membership site, again, it's a valid model, right? It's a little bit different from what I'm usually talking about, but it can be essentially a kind of more of a membership site approach. And again, I take a very principled approach here. Like, what are we trying to accomplish? What's the goal? What's the reality? And then let's figure out. Let's design it in such a way that will help you get your what you want by helping your ideal members get what they want. So that's a again, that's an individual design decision, business design, and from the business design, we would flow backwards and design the network.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's a lot of, I mean, obviously you want to qualify people so you wouldn't make this offer to everybody, but having this
Right.
in your back pocket for the right people, it's, to me, it's a no-brainer.
Right. And even if someone's making a good, seven figures on from their perfect expert model, they probably wouldn't mind another one, $200,000 leading a network of their ideal clients.
Yeah, because those types of people would probably most easily know how to leverage that opportunity into something that they are, uh, you know, that they're already currently actively
Right.
monetizing. So, um,
I'll just throw this out there in case somebody listening is relevant, but I've mostly been doing this with small solo consultant and very small firm. I know that this could be just as good for a larger firm, and by that I mean 40-person, 50-person. It could be a law firm. It could be so whoever someone who's responsible for business development at 100-person. There are consulting firms where a new project is worth anywhere from low six to low seven figures or even more. there there's a lot of potential here, and I'm just looking for opportunities to help them do that. So if anyone hears and it's relevant, reach out. Let's make it happen together.
I mean, I see this as a perfect opportunity for my agency to curate, because our agency fees are high ticket, right? We're talking tens of thousands of dollars, and for a long time, I was blending my agency with my education side, and as my network is growing, as my list, my audience is growing, like, there's a clear divide, and a clear separation between the people who are really a good fit for the agency and who are a really good fit for education. And those types of people are in different mindsets. They're in different positions in their business. Many people in the education side are startups, which is totally fine. I like serving both, but you know, getting clear on my core
Yeah,
customer, my core avatar, I see this as being a perfect downsell offer for people in the agency side. And so that's what I'm excited to continue to
got it.
brainstorm. And I have to think about this a little bit more, but selfishly, that's
Hap-
why I wanted to
Happy
have the
to help you.
conversation with you.
Um, yeah, no, sure. Happy to continue that at a a good time. But what you just said though, I think is helping me start to see what could definitely make sense because you just showed essentially you've got two pyramids in your right in your business, right? And I actually saw you talk about that somewhere on one of the things you've done recently. I don't remember which it was. You've got some really good good programs you've been putting out lately. Um, and uh, but that actually, so if it's somebody who's not really a fit for the education side, but is a highly likely future fit, or could be past, like maybe you did a project and you want to, instead of just saying goodbye, you want to have some other kind of low maintenance something or other, it could be a fit for both. So, but just the fact that you could say that you see differences, I don't know what they are, but if we would talk it through, we could probably come up with, okay, based on that, this is what it should look like.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just tell you real quick the differences in my company because I know like the back of my hand. Um, the people who come into my agency side, I mean, they're already high six, if not multi seven figure entrepreneurs, and normally they want to start a new offer. Like they want to build a new profit center. And people
Hmm.
who are buying my Power Offer workshop, my low ticket stuff, and even my $2,000 courses, um, yes, we do get some seven figure entrepreneurs. Actually, we've gotten quite a few seven figure entrepreneurs who have purchased that $2,000 program and um, our low ticket stuff as well.
Agency.
But the vast
Hmm.
majority of the people who are buying the those low ticket stuff, those are people who are in consumption mode. They want to buy a course, they want to go through it on their own, or they want to put it on their digital bookshelf for whenever they get around to it. I'd say they're lower committed, uh, but they're still very valuable, and you can't discount them. And so it's their mentality and their modality that is the main difference between service-based side and education side.
And that I hear you. There's definitely what to work with there.
So excellent. Oh, Dove, this has been a fantastic conversation. I mean, talking about masterminds, talking about Alchemy Networks. By the way, I'm a naming guy. I love Alchemy Network. Like, I think that's a fantastic name for a product for your program. It's got the marketing zing. It's got everything that's attractive for product names. So just kudos on that. But we had a fantastic conversation on building and curating a network that leads to your higher end offers. And I hope that people are listening right now because if you're part of my audience, then you know, hopefully how to generate leads. I mean, that's what I taught. That's what I teach. That's what I show you how to do. But this is, if you were to implement something so, like I'm going to be an advocate of this for the immediate, I mean, for a while because once I get this working, which I fully intend to, like I'm number one going to be sending everyone to Dove who's asking about this because I'm not the expert on this. Like I'm going to be testing things and you'll hear me talking about it, but you know who the expert is. I hope that you reach out to Dove and follow his model because I really do believe this is a highly leveraged way to, yes, it'll add some money into your bank account and it'll be worthwhile, but um, it will pad your bank account. It will pad your um uh what did you call it? It was you were talking about the people who were contributing into your group. You have to establish um uh you were talking about the, I'm going off topic here, but the the
No, that's all
the
right.
the phrase is getting away from me. But you were talking about the member in the group who hadn't contributed lately,
Oh yeah,
and
emotional bank account. It's
emotional
Stephen
bank.
Covey.
Okay, so I was close. I was thinking
Yeah.
it was something other than bank account, but no, the emotional bank account. It will build your network. It will build your relationships, and it will build your business in ways that you never thought possible. Dov, where can people connect with you? Where can people find you? Let's drop some links.
Find me at profitablерelationships.com, and you can get, we put up some free training for your listeners at profitablерelationships.com/unleashed, right? So Experts Unleashed podcast, just /unleashed, and Dov at profitablерelationships.com if you want to ask me something directly.
Awesome. Please go check out his links, go check out his site, and reach out to Dov. Let him know that you heard him on Experts Unleashed. Give him some love, give him some kudos. I always love sending people to go check out my guests who are gracious with their time and gracious with their expertise. And so, Dov, it's always great connecting. Thank you so much for hopping on the show today. And for everyone listening right now, we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
Thanks for having me.